You know that smell, right? The second you walk into a beauty salon, it hits you. That mix of hairspray, nail polish, all the things. It's kind of the smell of getting pampered, of a fresh new look. But what if there's something more going on in that air? Something hidden? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into today.
So is that smell actually harmless? I mean, it's a question most of us probably never even think to ask. We just link it to style, right? To self-care. But today, we're going to look past all that. We're going to investigate the air itself. Because sometimes the things you can't see are the ones that matter most.
All right, so let's get into the science of it. Our guide here is a brand new study from Scientific Reports. What these researchers did was pretty straightforward. They went into 22 different beauty salons in a city in Iran, and they measured the invisible chemicals just floating around in the air. You know, the stuff that everyone, technicians, clients, is breathing in all day long.
So what were they actually hunting for? Well, the investigation zeroed in on 3 specific chemicals that are super common in beauty products. Let's meet our invisible culprits.
First on the list is formaldehyde. Now, you've probably heard of this one. It's a colorless gas, and it's a key ingredient in things like hair straightening treatments. But here's the kicker. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, puts it in their top-tier category. We're talking Group 1, a known human carcinogen. That's not a maybe. That's a yes, this can cause cancer.
All right, suspect number 2, benzene. This is a volatile organic compound, or VOC, and you'll find it in stuff like hairstyling creams. And guess what? Just like formaldehyde, the IARC slaps that same Group 1 label on it, known human carcinogen. So that's 2 for 2 on the highest risk list.
And finally, we have acetaldehyde. Now, this one's a little different. It's classified as a Group 2B, which means it's a possible human carcinogen. So it's not in that top tier with the other 2, but there's still enough scientific evidence there to say, hey, we really need to be careful with this one, especially over the long run.
Okay, so we've got our 3 main suspects. The next step for the researchers was to bag the evidence, right? They took air samples from all those salons to see just how much of this stuff was actually in the air. So let's look at what they found.
Now, the findings for all 3 chemicals were pretty interesting, but one of them set off alarm bells right away when compared to the official air quality guidelines. And that was acetaldehyde. See, the World Health Organization, the WHO, has a clear safety limit for it. And get this, a whopping 68% of the salons they tested had levels higher than that official guideline. We're talking more than 2 out of every 3 salons. But this is where the story gets a little complicated. Because when they looked at formaldehyde, every single salon was totally within the WHO safety limits. Okay. Then for benzene, they were all under the US safety limits, but interestingly, 40% of them were over South Korea's much stricter guideline. And then you've got acetaldehyde, with that huge 68% being over the line. So it's a real mixed picture, isn't it? So what does this all mean? Like, is there an immediate danger? When you see a number like 68% over the limit, you have to wonder, right? Should you be worried about just, going in for a haircut? And believe it or not, the study's answer here was no. When the scientists crunched the numbers for short-term, non-cancer risks, immediate health problems, they found that even with those higher levels, it didn't cross the official danger line. So, case closed? Not even close, because that is only half the story.
Right, because that was all about the short term. The real issue, the one that really impacts the people who work in these places day in and day out, comes into focus when you look at the long game. Let's talk about the long-term verdict.
And this slide really tells the whole story. It's like 2 sides of a coin. On one side, you have the short-term risk, which they found was low, no immediate danger. But on the other side, the long-term, lifetime cancer risk for the technicians, the people who are there for, say, 30 years, that risk was consistently calculated as unacceptably high. So what does unacceptably high actually mean? Well, in the world of risk assessment, it all hinges on this specific number. A risk greater than 1 in a million. Here's how it works. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, has a benchmark. They say if a lifetime of exposure to something creates a cancer risk that's higher than 1 extra case for every million people, that risk is unacceptable. And what this study found was that for salon workers, the risk from formaldehyde, benzene, and acetaldehyde consistently went over that 1 in a million line. And you don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at the exact words from the study's conclusion. The researchers themselves wrote, quote, "The results of the cancer risk assessment confirmed that working in beauty salons is unsafe.
I mean, they do not pull any punches there. That is about as direct as it gets from a scientific paper.
Okay, so this sounds pretty serious, and it is, but the point here isn't just to sound the alarm, it's to find solutions. That's what this kind of research is all about, identifying a problem so we can fix it. So what can be done? How do we protect the amazing professionals who work in this industry? Well, the study lays out some clear next steps.
The researchers pointed to 4 big things. First, and this is a huge one, better ventilation, to get that contaminated air out and fresh air in. Second, and this is obvious but important, switching to safer products that just don't release these chemicals in the first place. Third, making sure technicians are using personal protective equipment. And finally, putting real health and safety policies in place so this stuff actually happens consistently.
So if there's one thing to really take away from all this, it's this. The serious risk we're talking about isn't for you or me going to the salon a few times a year. It's for the stylists and technicians, the people who are breathing that air all day, every day for years on end. This is a classic occupational hazard, and it's one that really needs our attention.
So yeah, this research really changes how you might think about a place we all know so well. It's a powerful reminder that behind all the style and the pampering, there are professionals working in a pretty complex chemical soup, and their health is absolutely worth protecting. So the next time you walk into a salon, will you think a little differently about the air you're breathing?